The Chicago Bears, oh no, are the number one seed in the NFC, making Sunday at Lambeau Field the biggest game between these two teams in over a decade.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. After the Packers went in and took care of business against the Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears went to Philadelphia and took care of their own business. They ran it down the throats of the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely bludgeoned that team. And I'm telling you this right now. That Philly team they are on the precipice of a spiral. How do I know that? We've seen them do it. In 2023, that team, they were riding high. What were they, 10-1? And they fell apart. They fell apart because dissension in the ranks. It's not a well-coached team by the head coach. I don't know what Nick Sirianni does in Philadelphia. But the Bears, by virtue of that win, are now atop the NFC standings. Now, forget for the moment that by the underlying metrics, you know my favorites, DVOA, they are an average to below average team. If you include weighted DVOA, coming into the week, they were 15th. I believe the latest DVOA numbers does not have the new, the Eagles game, for example, built into it, because that is going to push their DVOA up. I assume the Packers' performance on Thursday is also going to push their DVOA up. The Packers opened as 6.5-point favorites against the Bears for a reason. They are the favorites. They deserve to be the favorites. But we haven't seen a game with this much on the line since 2013, when in the final game of the season in Chicago, Aaron Rodgers threw the ball to Randall Cobb on fourth down. That was Rodgers gets out, floats it, Cobb caught, touchdown. These are the stakes. And we talked last week about how it doesn't actually matter if the Bears are as good as those underlying numbers. The Packers have two opportunities to show that, but the Bears are going to get two opportunities against the Packers. And we saw last year, that was a bad Bears team and a pretty good Packers team. And Chicago gave them everything they could handle in both games. Now, Jordan Love goes out in the Week 17 game. That's Malik Willis for more than a half. Josh Jacobs didn't play in that game. Christian Watson gets hurt in that game. And it still took a last-second field goal where the Packers forgot how to play defense on the final snap to get that one across the finish line. But it also took a blocked field goal against Caleb Williams in the first game to win that one. The Packers have done much better this year in the division, have not lost a division game to date, swept the Detroit Lions after struggling in the division last year. The only win they got was by Carl Brooks's fingernail. That's not been the case this year. And right now in the NFC, everything is wide open. Like, this Chicago Bears team is going to go to the playoffs. And the way they play, they create explosives on offense. They can run it on anybody. And they create turnovers on defense. That is a formula for variance. They could go in and beat anybody, including the Green Bay Packers, this weekend. And what you don't want to have to do is go to Chicago and give them another opportunity to play the variance game. You have to take care of business at home. Now, I think the Packers are clearly the more balanced, the more well-rounded team. I think Jordan Love is playing at a level as high as anyone in the NFL at the quarterback position the last few weeks. He is dialed in. Matt LaFleur letting him go play quarterback. That this was an opportunity to let it all hang out. That they were going to go on fourth down. The same message, the same kind of message that Dan Campbell gave to his team last year that we saw on Netflix. Hey, we're going to go on every fourth down. That was the Packers' mantra. Them going for it. 2 plays to win the game at the end. They took both. That was not the Matt LaFleur we've seen. Tyler Dunn wrote about this a little bit, that there was last year, according to at least one player, that there was some coaching not to lose. If you've had eyeballs, you don't have to be in that locker room to see that has happened. It happened in 2024. It happened before that. It happened in 2023. It happened in 2021. It happened in 2020. Less in 2020, I would say. Certainly in 2021. Certainly in 2023 at times. But what we saw on Thursday was double moves. Hey, you're gonna play press man coverage every rep. All right, we got something for you. No, the Bears aren't going to do that. But the Packers had a plan to go in and be aggressive, to come out firing, to come out hot with their piss hot. Damn it. That phrase is never going to go away. Never. And the Bears are going to come in feeling like, hey, we can do this. We just did it. Now, Bears fans will tell you in the most important win of the Bears franchise in the last 10 years. Okay, maybe not. Maybe 5 years. Was beating Malik Willis at the end of the game. Congratulations. But they're coming in playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. They're also coming off a coach taking off his shirt in the locker room, much like the Sam Darnold celebration after the Vikings beat the Packers last year. And that Vikings team has cratered since then. Now, I'm not saying this Bears team is going to do the same, but that's by far the biggest win of their season. Now they got to get back up, come to Lambeau, and play this Packers team that is going to be ready for them. If you don't think this Packers team remembers what happened at the end of last year, if you don't think this Packers team remembered how close they played the Bears in that first game, you are sadly mistaken. This is around the time teams start to show you who they are. And the Bears, unfortunately for the Packers, are showing they are better than some of the underlying metrics will tell you that they have been, at least, or they are capable of being better. Again, I think that the Eagles are cantilevered on the brink. And I think 1 or 2 more bad games. I mean, the Boo Birds were out in Philly in the first half. I think that is an offense that is much easier to stop than the one Green Bay plays. And I think that is a defense, because of the static nature of what they do, that can be easier to exploit. I don't think Caleb Williams can come in and be, at one point, what was he? He was like 9 for 20 at one point. Caleb Williams is not coming to Green Bay and winning a football game if that's the passing line. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. These are the stakes you want in these games. And don't forget this. The first game Jordan Love played as the preferred starter in the NFL was in Chicago against the Bears, when the Bears fans thought it was all lining up for them. This was the year Justin Fields was going to take off. This was the year that they were taking back the North. It was over for the Packers. Jordan Love wasn't even going to be as good as Justin Fields. He wasn't even going to be as good as broken down Aaron Rodgers in 2022. Surprise! He gets up for these moments. And he's been playing at an extremely high level. If you ask me one reason I think the Packers are going to win on Sunday, and I do think the Packers are going to win on Sunday, it's that I think Jordan Love is going to play great. And I don't know how you could believe that Caleb Williams is going to play great. He plays well in the fourth quarter when it's more backyard football. It's got to drive Ben Johnson nuts that they're winning all these games and he can't tell Caleb Williams anything. The second and third quarters, like, they're not very good. But you play the variance game, you run the ball, you get that one turnover. This is the profile of the kind of team like the Carolina Panthers, who, by the way, are the reason the Chicago Bears have the number 1 overall seed. This is the profile of a team. They can be opportunistic on defense. They can run the ball on offense. That can make this a 7-possession game, an 8-possession game. So you're going to have to be highly efficient with your offense. The Packers have to have a good plan ready, and they have to be willing to be aggressive again. That you can't go to Detroit and play to win and then come back home and play the Bears as the favorites. They were the underdogs in Detroit when Matt LaFleur historically is willing to be much more aggressive. You can't then go play the Bears and say, well, now we're going to play not to lose. No. Take the same approach that won you the game in Thanksgiving and apply it this week. One of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to finish when you create pressure against Caleb Williams. We'll talk about that next. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever. It's going to be massive, but let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. The Seat View feature, is a game changer. You literally see what the pitch looks like from the exact seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen of the day, and thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. The Chicago Bears have made massive improvements to their offensive line. And so that has improved the pass protection around Caleb Williams. And so what he has found is far fewer sacks. Now, if you look at the numbers, he is an outlier right now when it comes to pressure to sack. Holding the ball as long as he does and getting sacked as infrequently as he does he's the outlier of outliers going back to 2013. This year, he's top 10 in not allowing pressures to turn into sacks. Now, I don't have to be a data scientist to tell you that could just be an outlier and is likely, like when I said his performance this year is an outlier. Well, overall, that sounds like an outlier to me when last year he was historically bad at avoiding sacks. And in college, he was below average at avoiding sacks. You have to finish to create those negative plays. You have to. Last year, almost 28% of Caleb Williams' pressures turned into sacks. This year, 12.5% of pressures turned into sacks. But he's still holding the ball an awfully long time. Part of that is the way that this offense is built. A lot of big play action shot plays, rollouts, moving the pocket, setting up deep shots. And so he's going to just naturally hold the ball. But he's also inaccurate. He is still an inaccurate passer. He's got talent, and the throw, the touchdown to seal it is proof. Gets outside the pocket, rolling to his left, and makes a throw down the field. The talent is tantalizing. But the consistency down to down, play to play is not there. Maybe it will get there, but it is not there right now. And so when you have the opportunity to get this team off track, a team that wants to run the football, that is capable of running the football, when you get into the drop back game, or you can create a pressure on a play action shot play, when Caleb's going to hold the ball, the highlights of him making plays and running around, they're impressive. He's having an all-time season just with those kinds of highlights. And he reminds me right now of Kyler Murray. the escapability, the highlight plays are off the charts. But down to down, play to play, Kyler never was able to put it together for a full season. And then because he's a Lilliputian, he's not been able to hold up. And that's to say nothing of whatever other Call of Duty related distractions might be keeping him from, being as up to date on his playbook, for example. You go back to the Tyler Dunne reporting on what happened as a rookie and the idea that he didn't want to be coached or didn't trust that coaching staff to coach him, whatever it was. There's some of those red flags in there too. So when Micah Parsons and Rashawn Gary and Edgerrin Cooper and those guys get in there, you have to finish those plays. And we saw last year, there were a couple times Edgerrin Cooper looked like he had him dead to rights, and Caleb, I think, surprised him with his speed. He looks fast. He can be speedy in the open field. If he breaks contain, you're going to have to set strong edges in the run game and against Caleb in general. I don't expect to see the Packers blitz Caleb Williams that much. They're going to rush with 4 and try and get home and say, we think we can beat your offensive tackles. And Micah Parsons is probably going to be able to beat those offensive tackles. No Devontae Wyatt. And so you rush 4, you drop in coverage, and you make him make throws. I mean, there is a whole civil war going on with Roma Dunze fantasy owners and the fantasy football community. The fantasy football community has decided Caleb Williams sucks because none of the receivers on that team are as productive as they could be if Caleb were more accurate. You look at things like completion percentage above expectation, off-target throw rate. They're bad. They're bad. Not like, oh, no, you dig a little deeper and it's not as bad. No, they're bad, man. He is an inconsistent thrower of the football. Wildly talented, inconsistent. And I'm talking about bad misses. He had a couple terrible misses against the Eagles. 3rd and 5, a guy wide open. Just airmails it 5-10 yards over his head. Like, Bears fans love to puff their chests out over not having interceptions. It's like, yeah, because the guy in the 3rd row is making the catch, not a defender. So you're going to have those plays. So then when you get into 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and you might want to play a little bit of man coverage. Now you have to play contain. Make him make tight window throws because he makes among the fewest tight window throws in the NFL. Part of that is Ben Johnson. And we know how good Ben Johnson is. Ben Johnson is a hell of a coach, a hell of a schemer of offense. So the Packers have seen it. They know what it looks like. They are very familiar with Ben Johnson. They prepped for Ben Johnson twice last year, and then they prepped for a similar version of that offense twice already. It's not going to be a surprise, some of the stuff that they're running. But Ben Johnson has seen Jeff Hafley before too. Now they haven't seen Micah Parsons. And against the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple weeks ago, not a very good defense, Caleb made some bad mistakes. Tried to do too much. Sack, fumble, touchdown. Make him play quarterback. Same thing with JJ McCarthy. Now, Caleb is not as bad as JJ. JJ is unwatchably bad. Like, not one of the 40 or 45 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe that might be honestly a charitable number to McCarthy. I think every team has a better quarterback than JJ, and I would say some teams probably have multiple. Like the New York Giants probably have 3. The Packers have 2. Like Malik Willis would be better than JJ McCarthy. Make him play quarterback. And then when you have your opportunities to create those negative plays, you have to take advantage. If he's going to throw you the ball, you have to catch it. This can't be a repeat of the Jameis Winston experience, where you have 5 opportunities, you come away with 1. The Bears are the opportunistic defense of these two. They're going to take advantage of their opportunities. Number 1, don't give them any. The Packers, one of the best teams in the NFL this year, not turning the ball over, but so are the Eagles. Now, Jalen Hurts played like poopy, like dog doo-doo, was bad. That is a poorly designed offense. And Hurts was just bad. Bad. And so if Jordan Love plays like he did on Thursday, the Packers are going to win because this Chicago Bears defense, even with Jalen Johnson back, is just not very good. They rely so much on turnovers. In fact, they are the team defensively that everyone said the Packers were last year, but they weren't. The Packers last year were a top 10 defense, even accounting for turnovers. If you take turnovers out, they were a top 10 defense. This Bears team, even with all the turnovers, is not a top 10 defense. So we're going to get to the end of the week. I'm telling you this right now. We're going to get to the end of the week, and my number one key is going to be don't turn the football over. Explosive plays, they gave them up against the Lions. Can't happen. But this is one of the best explosive play defenses in the NFL. This is a team that will run inside on you. The Packers showed again against the Lions. Try and run outside. Bad idea. This Bears team is going to come downhill at you. They're going to run power. They're going to run gaps. They're going to pull. They're going to slice tight ends. They're going to do all sorts. They're going to run traditional traps. They're gonna have a deep bag of runs that you got to be ready for. It's gonna be big boy, strap your chin strap, get those pads locked and loaded because there's gonna be some pads popping on Sunday. Now, the late afternoon game, by the way. America's game of the week, by the way. So when you get the opportunities to create negative plays against Caleb Williams, you have to take advantage. All right, let's look around the rest of the conference right now. Let's get the lay of the land. We'll do that next. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making choices every day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is at Prize Picks. Prize Picks has added an extra layer of excitement to the holiday sports schedule. Create a lineup, takes less than a minute, and the whole app process makes it smooth and intuitive. Just pick more or less on a player stat, and you've got lineups. Plus, with the new stacks, love that one, you could take Jordan Love's passing yards, touchdowns, and rushing yards. You got a lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. If the season ended today, it doesn't, but if it did, the Packers would be the 6th seed. Now, the tie certainly comes into play here, and you know it's going to come into play at the end of the season. The tiebreakers are going to matter, but here's the deal. Win your division, and you have a home playoff game. And if you win your last 3 games against just the NFC teams in your division, you're essentially guaranteed at the 3 seed because Tampa probably going to lose one more. They're 7-5. They're going to be the 4. You get in that 3 seed spot, you give yourself a shot. The Eagles right now at 8-4 are in that spot. Part of that is because they beat the Packers head to head. And so you're gonna have to get ahead of them, or you have tiebreaker problems. Now the Packers can still get the number 1 seed. I don't want to fall too far down this rabbit hole, but the Packers can still get the number 1 seed. They have to win out. And then Seattle and LA each have to lose a game. Well, Seattle and LA play again, so someone's going to lose that game. And then you just need the other team to lose again. Not at all inconceivable. I think the Packers will be favored in their home games plus the Minnesota game for sure. I mean, we'll see about that Denver game, right? And so I'm going undefeated. Not crazy. If the Packers are 6.5-point favorites and beat the Bears, let's just say they beat them by the prescribed touchdown on Sunday. The Packers will be 3.5, 4-point favorites in Chicago probably in a couple weeks. Now that'll be a more desperate Bears team, but the Packers will be leading the division. Win the division. That's the goal. Jordan Love said explicitly, our number 1 goal this year, or our first goal, is winning the division. Get that home playoff game and then see what you got. Look, I mean, the Rams just lost because they got lit up by Bryce Young. Lit up. Like the Panthers are a very difficult team to make sense of because they lost to the Saints. They've been blown out multiple times, but they beat the Packers in Lambeau and they just beat the Rams when Matthew Stafford is going to be, he was the runaway favorite to be the MVP. He was going to set records for touchdown to interception ratios, throws 2 picks, a pick 6, and has the decisive fumble at the end of the game. Are the Rams really, like, Matt LaFleur's never lost to Sean McVay. Did the Rams move you? Did the Rams scare you? Now, Seattle, they beat the Vikings much like the Packers beat the Vikings. Now, that was Brock Hosmer, or whatever his freaking name is. What is his name? I keep getting his name wrong. What is his name? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what his name is. Max Brosmer is his name. That Seattle team, if you win your division, unless they win the division, it kind of doesn't matter, right? So you've got to win what's in front of you. Win what's in front of you, you're going to be a top 2 seed. Like if the Packers win out, if they go 13-3-1, they are going to be the 1 or the 2 seed. And I would venture to wager they would be the 1 seed if they win out, but that's a lot of games to have to win. That's no room for error. And then there's the question of, okay, so let's say you're locked into the 3 seed in week 18 against the Vikings. You got to play it the next week. Do you sit somebody? Is there someone right now you're looking at this and going, I would like to see them if the Packers, let's say the Packers don't get the number 1 seed. Let's say they get, I think they're more likely at this point to be the 3. Just because of the Eagles thing makes it complicated and the tie makes it complicated. So let's say they're the 3. Well, the Packers are currently the 6. What if the 49ers are the 6? How would you feel about that? The 49ers come to Lambeau in the wild card round. Now, this is not the same 49ers team that came in 2021 and beat the Packers. Nick Bosa's not coming. Fred Warner's not coming. Brandon Ayuk's not coming. That version of Christian McCaffrey's not coming. Who knows what version of Brock Purdy is going to show up? Hell, maybe it's going to be Mac Jones. Maybe Mac Jones would be scarier. The Packers have to take care of business because there are no good paths here. Frankly, I don't think it matters. Like if the Packers end up staying as the 6 and they have to go to Philly, that would be tough. I think the Philly is a bad matchup for Green Bay in a lot of ways. We can't get too into the matchup part of this. But you look at the schedule. I mean, the Rams, it's not exactly a gauntlet for them to close, but they do have some tough games. They play the Cardinals twice. You got to figure those are wins. But they play the Lions at home. And they got to go to Seattle. So ideally for the Packers, they win out. The Lions go in and beat LA. And then the Rams beat the Seahawks. You're the 1. You're the 1 seed. I think the Eagles, if they finish with 6 losses, it wouldn't surprise me. And do you guys know what the Bears schedule looks like? Have you looked at the Bears schedule lately? They've got the Packers twice, the Browns, okay. They got to go to San Francisco, and they finish with the Lions. I mean, they have 3 losses now. That could be 4 more losses on their schedule. They could go from the number 1 seed to 10-7 awfully quickly. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities at all. I think the Packers, the 49ers, and the Lions are all better teams than the Bears, despite where they are in the standings currently. So enjoy it now, Bears fans. I know you're listening. Hi. Welcome back. You're a real NFL team again. You're a real boy. Finally. We'll see you on Sunday. And we'll see everybody else back here tomorrow as we get you set for the biggest Packers-Bears game in over a decade. They should have Randall Cobb at this game. If the Packers have anybody in their ops department doing their jobs, Randall Cobb has to be at this football game on Sunday at Lambeau Field. Follow me on the socials. Follow the podcast on the socials. Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe on our YouTube page. We've got our squad show coming on Wednesday for you. Live after the game. God, it's going to be fun. It is going to be nerve-wracking, but it is going to be fun. And we are always here for you so you can stay locked on Packers.